So we are making good progress here, and we do work with some actual data being stored in our database now, data which we can generate and work on in this administration interface. Now, we're not done yet though. We can soon also add connected models and set up relationships, but before we do that, how about adding an image? Because at the moment we got this blank spot here, and it would be nice to have an actual image here, and it would be nice if that image could be uploaded by us through that administration interface. And it turns out that we can add such a feature with very little effort. We can add a new field to our meetup model because we don't just want to have a title, a slug, and a description, but we also want to have an image. And now here, Django has a special field for us, which we can define. It has a image field for us. Now, image field, if we add this data property to our class, tells Django that image actually should hold an image. But Django is doing a lot of things behind the scenes here. When you use an image field, what Django does is it will take an uploaded file, store it somewhere on the hard drive. We can define where it should be stored, and we'll do it in a second. And it will then just store a reference, basically the path of that file on your hard drive in the database. So it's not the uploaded file which will be stored, but just a pointer to that file, just the path of that file. Which is what you should do. You should not store entire files in a database. That's not what databases are optimized for. We do have hard drives for that. And with image field, it's easy to implement this because Django does all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. We can add the upload_to keyword argument here to inform Django about the folder where we want to store the uploaded file. And I'll just point at an images folder for that. Now with that, we instruct Django to put the uploaded file into an images folder, but we also should dive into the settings.py file and add a little bit more configuration there. You can scroll to the very bottom of that file, and we are going to add a new configuration item here. Of course, not one which I just made up, but instead one which is also documented in the Django docs. If you copy this URL here, for example, you can dive into the official Django documentation, which is really detailed and really great. And here you can learn about all the settings you can add to your settings.py file. Now, the vast majority of those settings will rarely matter to you, but now I do need to add some settings related to file upload. To be precise, we need to add a media root variable here and a media URL variable, both written exactly like this. With media root, we tell Django where all these uploaded files should be stored in general. Yes, I did say that uploaded images should be stored in an images folder, but imagine that you have a bigger project and you have different kinds of files that can be uploaded for different models, maybe some PDF documents, some images, whatever. Then you typically don't want to store them all into the same folder, but you might have one root upload folder, and then you have subfolders like images inside of that root folder where the uploaded files get stored in. And that's exactly what I want here as well. And for this, we set media root equal to baster, which is a variable defined in the settings.py file at the top. This basically just points at your overall project directory. So this is just an absolute path to your overall project directory. And we take this absolute path and then use this Python syntax to concatenate a subfolder. To be precise, here I'll add the uploads subfolder, telling Django that all uploaded files should generally go into an uploads folder in our overall project folder. And then for the images specifically uploaded for this model, they will go into a subfolder of this uploads folder named images. So that's one setting we have to add. The media URL then should be /files/, for example, and this will simply be the URL under which these files are served. And Django will take care of mapping the folder structure on our server, so in our project here, to the URL for which the files will be requested. With these two settings added here, we can go back to models.py and save that file. And now we need to do two important things. I'm getting an error down there that I need to install an extra package, because as soon as you start working with images, or with the image field specifically, you need to install the pillow image, which is an image Django uses under the hood for working with that image. And this error message also gives us the command we should execute to install this package. So I will quickly do that and run python-m pip install pillow to install this package into on my system here, or in my case into this virtual environment. And once pillow is installed, we gotta do one other thing. Keep in mind that we changed this meetup model, and we did create a meetup based on the previous version of that model before. And in the database, we still have the structure for the old version of the model, so without the image field. So in the database, there will be a meetups table without an image column. And that's something we have to change. And therefore, we need to create new migrations, new instructions for Django on how to update the database and the existing meetup table in there. And we will also need to instruct Django what it should do with possibly existing meetup instances that already are in the database. We do already have one. We created a meetup through the admin interface a couple of minutes ago. But even if you would not have one, you will need to tell Django what it should do with possibly existing records, because it will not check whether there are records or not before it applies these new migrations. So that's something we'll have to do, but still, to make work a little bit easier for us, I'll also go ahead and I will delete this existing instance which we have in the database for now, so that we clean up the database, and then we'll create and run these new migrations. So therefore, I'm back in my admin area here, and then I'll start by deleting that meetup. And you see, if I click on meetups, I now get an error that we don't have a column for this meetup image field. Now, there are various ways of working around that. The easiest way right now is to just comment out this new field, save that, and reload. And now I'll delete this meetup which we created before by selecting it and selecting delete selected meetup. Yes. And thereafter I'll comment back in this image field. And now we need to create new migrations by running manage.py make migrations. And I'm now getting a message here that I'm trying to add a non-nullable field, which means it must not be empty, to meetup without a default. So that means that, of course, in the database, I already have a meetups folder, and up to this point, we did not have an image column in there. Now that's why I'm getting this warning, because I'm changing that structure. And now here it's asking me whether for existing records, which we might have, which we don't have here, we know that, but we could have some, I want to provide a default value, or if I don't want to make the migrations right now, and instead allow image to be null. So that if I had existing records, which obviously don't have an image yet, because they were created based on the old structure here, I then allow them to not have an image. Now I don't want to do that. I want to force every record to have an image, and I cleared all records anyways, so I will provide a one-off default by picking one here, and I'll now insert a default value, and I'll just enter test here as a string, so with quotes around it. And with that, I did provide that default value for any existing records we might have, but of course, as I said, we don't have any. Now, as a next step, we now need to run these new migrations by running the migrate command again. And with that, the database now was updated, and now the meetups we create need an image. And we can see this right away. If I add a new meetup, and of course for that we should restart that development server first with run server. Then here, if I add a new meetup, now we got this image field, and that's the great thing. We automatically get a file picker here. So we automatically got this integrated file upload functionality. As I mentioned, Django will be doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. So here, I'll just say our first meetup again, and then we can define our slug. And then the description, this is our first meetup again. And now we can choose a file. And for this, I did prepare a file here. You can, of course, pick any image you want. And I'll upload this and click Save. Now, a new meetup was created, but this meetup now also comes with an image. And we can see this if I inspect this here. Now, the image, as you can see, is not getting served though. We can't view the image. And that's something which we have to fix in our code. Because indeed, out of the box, the image upload works. And we did also adjust our settings to tell Django where that image should be stored. But serving user uploaded files is something we have to configure separately.